Hi,
Yeah.
good evening. How you
How are you
doing?
doing?
I'm very well,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
And you?
Great, great, great. I'm very well. Great.
Yes.
Okay, so welcome to once again another show of Heal Yourself Africa. Here with me is Nutritionist Tunde, and today we're going to be talking about thyroid diseases, thyroid disorder, and how you can actually correct and you know some of the dangers you need to know about these things. Right. So I'm just going to give a little background of what we do before I hand over to our guest today. So, we have established on this platform that the body have the capacity to heal itself, and how you treat your body and what you put in. The knowledge you have about your body will also help you to make that happen. All right. We believe that the body has the capacity to heal itself. So we are encouraging people to pay attention to their health. Enlightenment is the era we are in right now. You need to be aware of yourself, aware of your environment to be able to maximize information. Most of the lifestyle diseases people are dealing with is because they discover it late. And because they found out late, that is why it's mostly a problem. But remember, you are the one that lives with your body, and you should know your body more than every other person. And that is why we are having this show today. So I'm going to be handing over to Mr. Tunde Sotoye, who is a nutritionist and a certified nutritionist, who's going to be giving us some background knowledge about health and some of the things we need to know about health. Welcome on board, Mr. Tunde. Over to you, and let's take it off from here.
Thank
While
you
I
so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Hero. It's actually a privilege. It's an honor to be on this platform. And basically, we're going to be sharing to the whole world at large how to make sure that they're taking care of themselves, they're taking care of their health, they're seeing their health as priority. And then we are bringing all the knowledge down and breaking it to the barest minimum where they can get to understand and then take appropriate measures moving forward. So I guess today our topic today we're going to be talking about the dangers of thyroid disorder, the danger of thyroid disorder. So, and I believe a lot of people out there would be suffering or are basically suffering from thyroid issues. In fact, more than 50% of people suffering from thyroid issues are not even aware that they have thyroid issues. And the reason why we are particularly here now is to bring the knowledge out there, break it down to the barest minimal, and then they can have a major understanding of what thyroid basically is all about and how they can manage it accordingly moving forward. So the topic in front of us here is the dangers of thyroid disorder, functions, causes, and then symptoms. So during the course of this section, we are going to be enlightening us on all of this. So I would like us to start with the first slide almost immediately so I can break it down. So, as clearly seen and stated in this slide, we can see that this is just a description of what the thyroid is. We were talking about thyroid disorder. What is thyroid? You know, some people might not really be familiar with what thyroid is or the meaning of thyroid. So that's why I've taken time to see if we can just literally break it down for them to have a basic and a major understanding. So, thyroid is a small butterfly looking like shape gland in front of the neck. I have a diagram in the next slide so you get to see. So it is placed on the neck region and it looks like butterfly is just in front of the neck. That's what it looks like and that's where it's located. So it makes hormones that controls the way the body uses energy. So the function of the thyroid basically is that they produce hormones. They produce hormones. Now, the particular type of hormone they produce affects how the body uses energy, basically, and nearly every other organ in the body. So they control lots and lots of functions in the body. That's basically what the thyroid gland does. So apart from the fact that they are primarily responsible for the hormones that affect the metabolism, which when we talk about metabolism, we are basically talking about the chemical processes of the body. We are talking about how the body send messages, how the body uses up how do I explain it now? How the body uses up compounds in itself actions and reactions. Basically, that's what we're talking about. So that's what the thyroid system is responsible for. Let's have the next slide. So as you can see, there is a picture just basically depicting or showing us where the thyroid is located, just in front of the neckline here, and what the thyroid gland look like. That is exactly what the thyroid glands basically look like. For those that are watching live, probably not familiar or aware about it, that's exactly what is called thyroid gland. Can I have the next slide? Now, this is just to show how the thyroid system functions. It's just showcasing how they help in facilitating the metabolism of the system, how they releases chemicals. And we have what we call the T3 and the T4 cell and the TSH. Now, when you want to check with your thyroid system, your thyroid gland, and you're required to go for a test, these are where they're going to take samples from, and these are the tests they're going to conduct to have an idea of what your thyroid functioning is like. Okay, so that's basically what the thyroid system looks like. Can I have the next slide? Now that we understand what thyroid is, we have an idea of where it's located, we have an idea of what it looks like. Now, what's the function? What are they
Excuse me.
functioning
Okay,
about?
so Tunde, sorry. This thyroid disease is for the men. I think is here. The women, do they have it the way? Does this the shape? Is it the same thing with that of a woman?
Yes, thyroid is thyroid everywhere for man and woman.
Okay, okay. Is it something
Yes,
that's called
yes.
Adam's apple?
I can't get that.
Is it something they call Adam's apple for the man?
Yes, Adam's apple, just here. Yeah,
Great, great,
exactly. So that's the
great.
thyroid gland generally, and it's man and woman, just the same place accordingly. You get. So they have their different various functions. So what do they actually function? What's it meant for? What's it used for? Now, what the thyroid gland do, what they do basically is that they produce hormones that regulate the body metabolic rate, growth, and development. I just explained what metabolism is, which are the chemical reactions that happen within the body. So they determine how the body metabolism is. Some people have very fast metabolism, some people have very slow metabolism. Now, these same thyroid glands are responsible for growth. When I mean growth factor, when it comes to development of both male and female at different age categories, from childhood to adolescence to puberty stage and the likes, So they are responsible for all of that basically, and that's very important. So they play a major role in controlling the heart as well, muscles, the digestive functions, the brain development, and bone maintenance. So that means this goes a long way to show us that they are actually very important. The thyroid gland is actually very, very important in the system, and the correct functions depending on the good supply of iodine from our diet. So basically, what that is just saying is that it functions with the presence of iodine. And where can we get iodine? From the foods we eat. I have one or two slides that will explain further on how we can maximize the use of iodine. I'm talking about when some people have underreactive or overreactive thyroid, what medications or supplements they take, but the presence of iodine is still very, very, very important. You cannot do without iodine. So that's just basically what that point is talking about. Can I have the next slide? Yeah. So now we're basically talking about thyroid disorder. So now we know what thyroid is all about. We understand basically the functions of thyroid, and we know where it's located in the body. We know it's responsible for the body's metabolic processes, how the body uses up energy, how it controls different organs, basically. Now, when we say there's a thyroid disorder, this happens when the thyroid gland becomes inflamed, which may be due to an infection. So it's possible that there is an infection, or can be as a result of an autoimmune disorder. or another medical condition affecting the thyroid. What we mean by autoimmune disorder means that in a situation whereby the immune system is antagonizing itself, the immune system is attacking itself. That's what we mean by autoimmune disorder. So normally the immune system is not supposed to attack itself. The immune system is not supposed to work against itself. The immune system is supposed to work for itself to protect itself. But when there's an autoimmune balance, we call it hormonal imbalance, then the immune system starts to work against itself. So these are the different these are the different causes whereby we could have thyroid disorder. So definitely one needs to primarily check what could have caused it. So it could be either of this. When you have an idea of what has caused the disorder, then you can start, channeling a possible solution to it. Can I have the next slide?
Okay, so Mr. Tunde, you talked about please that can you go back to the last slide? The item.
Okay.
Yeah. You talk about being inflamed. Please, can you break that
Yes.
word inflamed in a word that everybody can get it? And also that's hormonal imbalance. I hear people talk about hormonal imbalance. Can you just throw more light on that, please? When the body is
Okay.
inflamed, what does that mean?
Yes. So when there is an inflammation, I'm trying to look for the simple English I can use to describe it. Then when there is an inflammation means that the body is affected. That means something is wrong somewhere with that particular organ. So an organ can be inflamed. That means maybe there's like an injury. Basically, when there's an inflammation, there is an injury. Just like when you have an injury on your skin, so you have an inflammation, it has to heal up for it to go back to normal. The same thing, let me digress just a little. When there is ulcer, people say, I have ulcer, I have ulcer. What does it mean? That means there's an inflammation on the stomach lining. So there is an injury on the stomach lining, which triggers the ulcer, which causes the sharp pain. So this time around, when we say there's an inflammation, that means that organ is inflamed and can be caused by anything. So inflammation, if I'm permitted to use the word, is almost like that particular organ is injured, basically, and it needs to be healed. So that's the meaning of inflammation, and anything could have caused it. That's why I said it could be as a result of the thyroid gland. That thyroid gland is the organ being inflamed. So it might be injured. It might be as a result of the medications we're taking. It can be as a result of anything. It can even be as a result of the autoimmune disorder. So when we talk about that hormone imbalance, meaning that there is a regular amount that the hormone is supposed to have been secreted into the bloodstream. So when the hormones are imbalanced, that means, which I'm going to explain in the next slide, that means the hormones are secreted way beyond normal, or their secretion of the hormones are little. So they're supposed to be in proportion. The secretion of those hormones are supposed to be in proportion and inadequate. But once there is a little more production or a little less production, that means the hormones are now imbalanced. So that's why we talk about hormonal imbalance, which now I would furthermore explain on the next slide. On the next slide, please. So take, for instance, when your thyroid makes either too much or too little of this important hormone, it is called thyroid disease. Now, thyroid disease basically is hormonal imbalance, because what that point is telling us that now your body production has made either too much or too little. Then there is a problem, and this can actually lead to the inflammation. So it is called thyroid disease. There are several different types of thyroid disease, basically. Now, thyroid disease is the major thing which affects the thyroid gland, as we see clearly at the beginning. So it could be hyperthyroidism, it could be hypothyroidism. So hyperthyroidism basically means there is oversecretion of the hormone. That's why it's called hyper. Then when you say hypothyroidism, that means there is an under secretion, of the hormones. So that's just the basic difference. So the idea now is that the production of that hormones has to be in check. There should not be overproduction. there should not be underproduction. It has to be balanced for everything to be in check, which can result into this thyroiditis or this Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So those are basically further breakdown and examples of what different thyroid disease can entail. But majorly, there can be hyper and there is hypo. The next slide talks about the hyperthyroidism, basically. So, what happens when there is hyperthyroidism? Hyperthyroidism means overreactive thyroids in simple English. That means there is excess production of the thyroid gland, also known as hyperthyroidism. It's a relatively common hormonal condition that occurs when there is too much thyroid hormone in the body and the body doesn't need the excess. So excess level of this thyroid hormone can speed up body metabolism. So like I said, these are chemical reactions that dictates and determine what happens in the body. But once there is excess production of these thyroid hormones, it speeds up the reaction of the body metabolism. That means the person's metabolism rate is fast, very, very fast. That means this person can eat now, and in less than how many minutes the person has burned down the food that the person has eaten, for instance. So the person metabolic rate is very fast. That this person will lose weight without even trying to lose weight. That's someone that has hyperthyroidism. So there is fast and easy weight loss. There is increased in appetite. This person would, in 2 seconds, you just finish eating a bowl or a plate or a meal of this. Before 1 hour, you are really hungry again. You want to eat again. So those are one of the symptoms of hyperthyroidism. Other things that will occur when there is excess production, the person can be nervous. The person can have raising heart. I was in an audience at a time and there was a question that came and it said there is an individual that for no reason the person's heartbeat will just start racing like as if the person is being chased. Now, that is as a result of excess production of thyroid hormones. Your heartbeat is supposed to be regulated, is supposed to be normal. But if for some reasons you are just in a resting state and your heartbeat increases and palpitates very fast for no reason, it's as a result of excess production of thyroid glands into the body. And the body doesn't actually need it, basically. And there's frequent bowel movements too. So in situation whereby your metabolic rate is fast, your appetite rate is high up there, you can eat like 10 times in a day, then you go to the toilet very more frequently. So those are the symptoms that someone with hyperthyroidism can actually experience. So once you start experiencing all of these things, you know that, wow, there's a problem. Then sometimes when you have trouble sleeping as well, that's another symptom. Some people will say, I don't get to sleep. Maybe I get to sleep just 2 or 3 hours in a day at night. Then there's a problem. They lay down on their bed from maybe 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and they are still up till 2 a.m. They're trying so hard to find the sleep. They can't sleep. This is a symptom of hyperthyroidism. So one needs to actually, observe your body system and don't just see it as normal. When there is a change and there's a weird thing going on in your body system, just try as much as possible to take notes of those changes so you can be able to put a tag to it. So these are symptoms. There are many other symptoms, but these are one of the symptoms someone that has overreactive thyroid gland will experience. Then let's go to the next one, which is the hypothyroidism. Can we have the next slide? Now, what happens when the thyroid is low? Now, it says here that low levels of the thyroid producing hormone, which is the thyroidophin, which is the T3 and the T4, which I explained earlier on at the beginning, changes the way the body processes fats. Now, this can cause high cholesterol, atherosclerosis. So in this case now, unlike the hyper, that the person metabolic rate is fast, the person will lose weight without trying. These are people that we say for no reason, I'm already losing weight. I'm not even making effort to lose weight, I'm losing weight. That's because their metabolic rate is very fast. But in hypothyroidism, their metabolic rate is very slow. Their metabolic rate is very slow, and they, in most cases, struggle to lose weight. They struggle to lose weight. People with hypothyroidism, they would go through different weight loss program. They would do keto. They would do calorie deficits, calorie counting. They will do intermittent fasting, but they will still not lose this weight if they have not
Mr.
attended
Tunde,
to.
please, let me just stress a bit. You said that people that have weight issues can actually do keto. Say it again. How did you say it again?
Okay, so what I mean is that I'm trying to explain the effect of being hypothyroidism, that's underreactive thyroid.
Okay.
One of the effects is low metabolism. For hyper, it is high metabolism. The metabolic rate is very fast.
That
But
means
for hypo,
the rate by which the food digests is faster,
yes,
right?
is very fast in hyperthyroidism. The rate at which the food digests and break down is fast. They can eat 10 times a day and they are still hungry. They go to the toilet very well, and then they can lose weight very, very fast. Without even trying to lose weight, they can easily lose weight. They struggle to gain weight. That's for hyper. But for hypothyroidism now, metabolic rate is slow.
Okay.
So digestion of food is slow. I believe you get what I'm trying to say. Breaking
Yeah.
down of food is slow. Okay, that's why it says that can cause high cholesterol and atherosclerosis, because the level at which the body breaks down the food is very slow, and then they struggle to lose weight. So,
Okay.
which is my
So someone can
explanation
actually
that
do keto. Someone can
so
actually
this is
do
why. So
keto. They
some
will
of
not
them
lose weight.
struggle to lose weight. They will go through different weight loss plan. I'm actually not recommending any in this context. I'm just saying that when you hear from them, they will say they've done keto, they've done intermittent fasting, they've done calorie deficit, they've still not burned fat. So no matter what weight loss program or plan they do, they will struggle to lose the weight because their metabolism rate is slow. It can only be controlled once the regulation of the secretion of that hormone is in check. That is when whatever protocol or program they are going can work effectively. So
Great.
sometimes, because they are not adequately checking, they will just realize that they are not even those categories of people, they don't even need to eat much before they add weight because the metabolic rate is slow. They will eat so little and the weight is already there. I believe you get what I'm trying to say. The metabolic
Very
rate
clear.
is very slow, and that's because the hormone is not balanced. So for the hormone to be for anything they do to work, the hormone has to be balanced for it to work, basically. So they struggle with weight gain. These are people that we go through. They will have constipation most of the time. Some of them are for hyperthyroidism. There is always anxiety because of the excess production of the hormone. But for this hypothyroidism, most people suffer from depression. They're always in low mood most of the time because everything about them is slow. I don't know if you get the difference between
Very clear.
hyperthyroidism and
I get
hypothyroidism.
it.
One needs to be clear.
Very clear.
And so the two have its own issues, the two have its own complications. And one needs to understand if someone has a thyroid issue, you need to quickly check which do I have? Is it hyper or hypo? So that you can address it accordingly. I believe you get what I'm trying to say. So those are the main. So in for hypothyroidism, too, one of the major challenges they face is fertility problem.
Okay.
That's for people with hypothyroidism. One of the challenges they face is fertility problem. For the women, they face irregular menstrual period. That means sometimes the menstrual cycle is not constant. Sometimes it is heavy, sometimes it is light, sometimes they don't see it at all. It's as a result of underreactive release of those hormones. So they don't have enough hormones to strike a balance. Remember, I said these hormones are chemical messengers. They affect every organ. They dictate what is happening in the body at every point in time. So they have to be in adequate production for the body to be balanced. So I only use, because of the fact that I affect the metabolic rate, that's why I intentionally use weight loss as a major example for us to really understand what it's all about. But it cuts across every other. It affects cholesterol, it affects blood pressure. So for some people that are even struggling and battling with cholesterol and blood pressure, it might be as a result of hypothyroidism. So it might be which is hormonal imbalance in essence. So
I see.
once your
Which part?
hormones are balanced, that's why it's always good to check, to do a test. Once you do a test, you realize that the production is fine. Then whatever how do I call it? Whatever protocol you choose to follow can work effectively and accordingly in addressing whatever the issue is. So take for instance, for anybody that has been struggling to lose weight or gain weight and has done everything possible and is trying to give up, check with your hormones. You should be able to get an answer from there. So once you are able to address that one, then you realize that, you can easily lose the weight or you can easily gain the weight, as the case may be. I believe you get my point. Yeah. So
Very
can I have
clear.
the next slide? Yeah. Okay, this is what happens when there is low thyroid. Okay, it has gone. So what organs does thyroid affect? So thyroid hormones affect virtually, like I said earlier during my explanation, thyroid hormones affect virtually every organ in the body, including the heart, which I was talking about, the cholesterol, no cholesterol, because underproduction affects the metabolic rate. So the operating system is slow. It's just like having a laptop that is operating very slow. You send a command and it takes like forever for it to, exactly. So
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
get it.
And then when your laptop is
Word
very
processor.
fast, before you open a page, 2 seconds, it's already there. So that's it. So it affects the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. It affects the bone. It affects the gastrointestinal tract. That's the GI, which affect the metabolism rate and the metabolism in essence. So these are the organs thyroid hormones affect. So it's very, very important to actually take note of them. Can I have the next slide? Yeah, this is a bit small. So these are part of the things I've explained earlier. People may experience. So these are the experience I explained, but I had to differentiate. In this slide, I collated them together. But I had to differentiate the symptoms because they are different. The symptoms for hyperthyroidism is completely different from hypo. For hyper, there is anxiety and the likes. For hypo, there is depression and the likes. Everything is very fast. For hyper, your heart is palpitating, is beating fast. So but for hypo is the opposite. So whole body, excess swelling, excessive hunger, fatigue, heart intolerance, and restlessness, that's hyper. Mood swings, nervousness and panic attack. So mood swings depending. If it's someone that is hypo, that is low production, the person feels on low mood, the person feels depressed. If it's hyperthyroidism, the person is overactive, the person is anxious, the person is unnecessarily scared for nothing. So you're asking, your heart is beating, you are scared, what happened? The person might not really be able to explain why he or she is feeling that way, and that's as a result of the excess hormone pumping into the system. So it affects the mood, then it affects the heart, abdominal heart rhythm, fast heart rate, palpitation. That's when all of a sudden the person feels agitated, like the person is scared, and the person's heartbeat will be very fast, like your heart want to come out of your chest. That's hyperthyroidism. And sleep difficulty. So insomnia. So you find it difficult to sleep and you stay up like 3 4 hours. Maybe you try to get an hour sleep, you are up again, you are awake. So once you observe any of these symptoms, you need to check in with your healthcare provider. Basically, irregular menstrual period, like I said earlier too. So in most cases for hypothyroidism, the menstrual flow It affects mental flow, behavioral, hyperactivity, and irritability. That's for hyperthyroidism. Eye abdominal, puffy eyes, that's hypothyroidism. Also common weight loss, that's hypothyroidism. Weight loss and the likes, diarrhea, muscle weakness, tumor and the likes, that's hypothyroidism. So these are the general symptoms, but they differ from hyper to hypothyroidism. Can I have the next slide? Can I have the next slide? Tips for healthy thyroid. So those are basically the general symptoms. There are more different other symptoms attributed or associated to all of this, but I was just able to pick some of the major things that most people usually would experience, and that's why they need to always make sure they check, especially when they are trying to attend to the needs of this. So they need to check with their thyroid glands and be able to know what is actually happening. But one of the major tips that I shared here is we can't prevent all these thyroid disorders. We can take some thyroid friendly diet step that can help keep thyroid working as well as possible. So one of the tips I actually picked here is to limit processed food. Okay, say diets high in ultra processed food are linked with increased risk of subclinical hyperthyroidism, a degree of hyperthyroidism that may not be severe enough to cause definite symptoms. Now, what I'm trying to explain here is that most of these processed food actually triggers. We call them triggers. They are the one that will trigger the excess production of these hormones, and it's not something that happens overnight. But if an individual has completely exposed himself to eating processed food almost every time, every day, it has to be packaged, it has to be processed. I don't know if I can even give an example. A processed food basically are foods that have gone through different process. They've used chemicals and preservatives and additives for this food. They have their labels. You see best before expiry date, anything from the can. If you're taking things from the can, processed fuzzy drinks and the likes, excess sugar. So if you expose yourself to all of this and more, they put you at that risk. They are called triggers. They can cause hyperthyroidism. Depending, even hypothyroidism, they can trigger any of this. So one needs to be very, very careful with processed food in general. So once you try as much as possible to prevent the consumption of this, you stand the better chance. Okay, so that's one tip there. Can I have the next tip? The next slide. Yeah. So examples of ultra processed foods include processed meal, any packaged meal that is processed, hot dogs, and some packaged foods such as cookies, cakes, snack. So what I mean by this is overly consuming them in a situation whereby your diet comprises of 80% of this. That's when there is a challenge. That's when you need to look out for this. So you need to try as much as possible to reduce the consumption of processed foods as much as possible. These food typically contain extracts that result in increase in sugar. Oh yeah, like we already know, sugar, salt, and fat, oxidative fat, trans fats, and the likes. So these are what triggers and make the hormones to fluctuate. They affect the balancing of the hormones because what you put inside your system determines the way your system would operate. What are you feeding your system with? We have the general term that says, are you feeding your system with poison or are you feeding your system with medicine? So the more you feed your system with all these poison, it affects the way your body works. It's just like you buy a very expensive car and then a very expensive Mercedes, like 10 million, and you went and buy a bad fuel, a bad petrol, and then you bought a bad engine oil or a very cheap engine oil and a very bad oil filter, and then you pour it inside. That engine is authentic from the car, but by the time the bad petrol and the bad engine oil starts running through that engine, it affects the productivity of that engine over time. The same thing with our organs. Our organs, our kidney, our lungs, the thyroid, they are super duper engine. We call them $1 million body. So, but once you start infusing and injecting this processed food, just like you put bad fuel or bad, it affects the lifespan of the car. Just like this also affects our lifespan. It reduces the quality of life and it reduces the lifespan over time. It's not something that will happen overnight. It will actually happen over time. That's why we need to be very careful with consumption of most of these things. The food typically contains extracts that, okay, I explained that. Decreasing intake or avoiding the food altogether may help reduce risk of thyroid dysfunction. So to be at a better chance, try as much as possible to reduce the consumption of this to the barest minimum as you can. Because the more you grow old, the more the chances of the hormone to be imbalanced by natural factors ordinarily. So we need to be very careful. Okay, can I have the next slide?
Wow.
I hope I've
Wow.
been able
Wow.
to break it down to the barest minimum. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Very,
So
very
this
clear. Very loud and clear.
very clear. Okay,
Yes.
thank God. So this is the second tip I have here. Our body requires iron to make thyroid hormones. Now we need this thyroid hormone. This is when we say hormonal imbalance. These are the hormones that we're talking about that they are not balanced. There is either overproduction or underproduction. But to make these hormones, our body actually required iron. Is one key factor. So if you are iron deficient, you could be at a greater risk of hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism treatment medication may not even work as well if there is low intake of iron. I was just trying to read this. The slide is very small. So, but what that point is basically saying is that we need iron for the production of these hormones. Now, a situation whereby an individual's diet does not have enough iron, obviously now there will be an underproduction. So this is a typical diet of somebody eating mostly processed food. You eat meat pie, you go to all this eatery, you take Coca-Cola, you eat meat pie for lunch, you are done. You eat hamburger, you eat pizza, you are done. Most of the combination of the food you are eating does not have iron. You can only get iron. I have the food sources for iron there, especially from your green, from your seafood, your meat, your poultry that has not been processed. So once there is lack of iron in the system, it will affect the production of this hormone, and that's where they can start from. That's where the trigger can start from. So definitely you need iron in your system. So even if you are on drugs or on supplements and there is no iron, what it means that it will not be effective until there is enough iron in the system, which will facilitate and support the production of these hormones by the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland will naturally produce this with the help of iron in the system. So that's why your diet needs to actually be rich in iron, so you can have enough and adequate production of this hormone basically. So getting enough iron in your diet, in your daily diet, can be an important step. Example of foods that contain iron basically includes non-fortified, like I said, non-processed, non-fortified, non-processed foods such as grains, cereals, and infants formulas. They have iron, and then poultry, they have irons. Red meat, they have iron. Seafood, in particular, they have irons. Okay, and if you are having difficulty incorporating iron-containing foods in your daily diet, you need to talk to your healthcare professional to actually help you find a way to regulate this in the diet. So that's one of the second tip there. Then the third tip, can I have the next slide? Yes, selenium is another important minerals that we need. We have it as supplements, we have it in food. So selenium is a trace mineral in our body that requires to activate thyroid hormones. So low selenium level is being linked with increased risk of chronic autoimmune thyroiditis, with thyroid disorder. So when there is no enough production of selenium in the body, it affects the hormones. So there is an imbalance. So it's actually important. These are one of the key minerals that the body actually needs for the production of this hormone to be adequate. So you can increase your selenium level by increasing the intake of meat, white meat, basically white meat, more of white meat, like chicken breast and the likes, seafood. So it's more of chicken breast. You can still get it in every other part of the chicken thigh, but I recommend more of the chicken breast basically. And then seafood, every form of seafood is fine. Then whole grains. What I mean by whole grains are your cereals, like the brown rice. Brown rice in particular is very rich in this compound, or not the normal white rice. There's brown rice, it's very rich in this. And but some people may require a supplement to enhance the selenium level. Now, depending when you do your test, you have to do your T3 and your T4 test. So that will determine, the count will determine how it can be activated. So it's a healthcare professional that is attending to you that will determine, oh, it's so low at this time, you need to, support with supplements, to adopt to your diet to facilitate the production to the level whereby it's at a balance. So depending on what the test results say. So that's why it's very important to always get in touch with your healthcare provider. It could be your doctor, it could be your nutritionist, it could be your dietitian. Just make sure you're talking to a specialist that can help you checkmate and balance how you can consume most of these things. So in summary, I think that should be the last slide. In summary, because with nutrition, we do holistic treatment. And that's why we have what we call the wellness tree. You don't just, maybe somebody has cholesterol, you just treating the cholesterol, you're just trying to manage the weight without knowing the actual root factor, the actual root cause. Once you address it from the root, it's very easy and fast to mitigate, and then there is no rebounds because you've attended to it from the root cause. But once you've not attended to it from the root cause, there can and be possible rebound. And when it comes, it's even worse than the way it was in the first step.
Oh,
So
wow.
basically, yeah.
Great, 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 great. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for this wonderful information you just shared. I believe that everyone here is getting a lot. There are some questions on the screen which we're going to be addressing now. So let me just give you a summary of what Tunde has said so far. So what we are saying is that the body has the capacity to heal itself. The body has been
Yes.
designed like a machine. The cells in the body, the tissues in the body, the organs in the body, the systems in the body. All of these organs are supposed to work well if you stay closer to nature and do the right thing with your body. Now, I was over 30 years before I know what is thyroid. Thyroid is a disease. Thyroid is a hormone, by the way. It's a hormone, one of the hormones in the body. And what we are dealing with today cross across everything, because if you look carefully, one problem leads to the other. One problem leads to they are all
Yes.
connected. Now, one thing we do is that most time we try to use drugs and supplement to cure these things. All right. So we focus on this without dealing with the root problem, which is what Mr. Tunde is mentioning today. That we can actually go back to the root of the problem and deal with it. And that is what we are doing today, to give you knowledge, because they say that knowledge is easy to him that understands. We are giving you the keys to a healthy living on how you can manage your health yourself. And that is what we represent here. All right, we're going to take some few questions as we round up the show for today. There's a question here by Mrs. Blessing. He said, what causes hypoglycemic and hypotension? That's hypo. And what are their curative measures? I know it's not what we're dealing with, but if there's a way you can mention one or two things, it can also help.
You say hypoglycemic what?
What causes hypoglycemic and hypotension? I think it's
Hypotension.
yes.
Hypoglycemic. So, okay. I will try to be as short because that can be a
That cannot be
major
a lot.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So, but basically, hypoglycemic is low blood sugar, and then hypertension is low blood pressure. So that's just what the two means. So there's blood sugar and there's blood pressure, and this time it is low. So in most cases, it's still as a result of this metabolism rate that can cause hypoglycemic. Take for instance, the same thing with even hypertension, which we talked about, the cholesterol, the artery blockage, and the likes. So let me take for instance from the hormonal level now to cause hypoglycemic. So in a situation whereby there is under secretion of thyroid hormones in the system, and the metabolic rate is very slow, and then everything is coming slowly. There is slow release of glucose into the brain. So whenever we eat our food like carbohydrate, protein, fats, and oil, vitamin, they have different function. That's why they say complete balanced diet. So you have to eat the 6 different classes of food. We have what we call the food well plate. So there is a level at which you eat them to meet up with your daily requirements. So when you have met your daily requirements, the body then goes through the digestive problem to digest and absorb. So in a situation whereby there is underreaction, which is hypothyroidism, now it's taking time for the body to digest and absorb because of the slow metabolic rates. So in an instance whereby the brain needs the glucose to work, to be active, to be smart, to be sharp, to be at alert. Now the supply of glucose to the blood is either shut down or completely very slow and very faint. So when hypoglycemia is coming, it doesn't just come all of a sudden. The person would have observed that he or she is tired without doing anything. He or she is fatigued without doing anything as such. You ask them, did you do anything at all? I didn't do anything. No, I'm just even sitting down or standing up, and then I'm just very tired. And then all of a sudden, the person's brain is shutting down. The person is feeling a bit dizzy, and the person is not able to coordinate accordingly. And that's because the supply of glucose to the brain is gradually depleting. And then the person go into hypoglycemia almost immediately. And the person can either almost blank out or shut down almost immediately. So at that point, there is need for an immediate rush of glucose into the person's system to revitalize the body almost immediately so that the body comes into normal before the person goes completely blank. I
Wow.
believe you get. So,
Wow.
in essence, it's still related to the hormones of the body. The same thing with hypotension. Basically, there is no enough supply of sodium and potassium, basically. So, once there is good potassium, then the systolic, we have what we call the systolic and the diastolic for the blood pressure. So, the systolic is supposed to be like 120 milligram per deciliter. The diastolic is supposed to be 80 milligram per deciliter. That's the average marking. So once there is hypertension, that means the systolic is less than 100. The systolic is around maybe 80, 90. Why the other one is about maybe 40, 60. So it is not in check. So and then hypertension comes in. So the everything is still linked to the hormones. Basically, there should be enough supply of these nutrients. So like the glucose is a nutrient we get from the food that controls the blood sugar, the potassium as well. We get it from food. We get it from our carbohydrate food, basically from our yam, and other carbohydrate class of food. So once we eat this food, the end product is all of these nutrients that is secreted in the blood. And the blood is supposed to now do the job of transporting this across to the different parts of the body. So when there is not enough supply. The blood is not able to supply to the organ where it is needed. The brain is an organ. So when the brain is not getting that glucose, the brain is shutting down. Then hypoglycemia comes in. When the heart is not getting that potassium, it is shutting down. That's when the hypertension comes in, basically. So we need to get these adequate nutrients from food after we have eaten them, and the body needs to absorb them to maximize them properly. So that's it. I hope I've been able to clearly answer that. Yeah, we can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Your voice.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I was muted. Didn't know. Yes. So thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. That was a powerful explanation you just did there. I believe we're going to dedicate a day also to deal with this in details.
Exactly.
In details. All right.
In details,
so
yes.
Everyone on the call today, I want to take my time and appreciate you. Please go on the chat box. Let's have your questions, your comments. Tunde has done a fantastic job. This information we are sharing with you today worth billions of money. As a matter of fact, we are supposed to pay a lot to be on this show because a lot of people don't know. I went to one of the big schools in Lagos and I was doing a health talk for the parents and teachers. And I asked them, where is your stomach? A lot of them don't know where their stomach is. They don't know where their stomach is. All right? They think that their column is their stomach. Now you live with your body, but you don't know your body. All right? When you fall sick, you now expect a doctor to treat you. You don't know yourself, but you expect a doctor to know you better than you know yourself. This is wrong because that is where we have missed this as Africans. We are not paying attention to what is important. We do all the outward things, but we don't pay attention to our body. And why we are creating this platform is to give you that power to take charge of your health. All right? So whatever be the challenge, we are here to support you. Heal Yourself Africa is a platform to help you get educated, to get empowered with knowledge so you can take control of your health. So we provide different services. Like we have mentioned, we are fully on ground because you cannot do it all by yourself. In the 21st century, you cannot help yourself by yourself because you are busy. And because you are busy, a lot of things can go wrong. All right? People don't intentionally eat canned food and processed food. It is what is available for them. Am I right, Mr. Tunde? Because when you are hungry...
Yes, you are right.
Yeah. So because when you are hungry,
right. Very right.
Whatever comes to sight is what you take. Whatever comes to sight is what you take.
Exactly.
But we are here to provide you with the necessary support you need. The nutritional plan, the challenge, we have what we call the 30 days food challenge. You can join us on that challenge and try it and see how your body can rebuild itself. There are some vitamins and minerals you are lacking over time in your body, but you don't even know. Because the body does not just break down. Like I tell people, whenever you see a sickness in your body, it's almost late. Because what you're going to be dealing with is 10% of the 100%. The 90% is beneath the skin, beneath the body. And that's what we call it the principle of the iceberg. So don't wait until you fall sick. All right? If somebody does not conceive, it could be something they are eating they don't know. So the body has the capacity to heal itself, and that's what we're talking about here today. So if you need chefs, if you need nutritional plan, if you need detox program, you can call on us and let us help you to revive your body and get you back to what it should be. All right, so I'm going to tell Tunde to give his final comments before we round up the show. And I want to sincerely thank him for being on this call today. This is the first time he's coming on our show, and I believe he's going to be a regular person. He's my friend and also my colleague. And to show you what we do in our industry, we are fully loaded with knowledge to spread it across. We are not afraid to share. We want to share it to the world so that our country and our nation, Africa, will be free, mentally and health-wise. Okay, so Tunde, any last word from you before we run today?
Thank you so much, Mr. Hero. I really appreciate everything. I appreciate this platform, and we're all doing a great job here. And well done. And I look forward to coming again and again and again for us to change lives here on this platform. And what I'm going to leave us with is health is wealth. Prevention is the best cure. Don't wait till it's late. You stand a better chance to fight you stand a better chance to survive while you are preventing. And then let's maximize that. Let's maximize that. That's one of the key things we're going to like to leave us with for those that are watching us, because I've already figured out that most people are ignorant of their health. They take other things more important than their health. And at the end of the day, when the health now is breaking down, then they are running from pillar to post. So, but please, please, and please, final words, health is wealth. Let's take care of our health. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. There's another question here, but I think we are done for today. The person was asking,
Yeah.
how do I know my hormone profiles? All right, I don't know.
So for you to know your hormone profile, you have to do a blood test. It's a blood just like I showed in that. There's one of the diagram there. So they take a sample, your TSH. So once the result is out, they'll be able to identify what is it. So you go to any MICUR or any medical laboratory around you, tell them that you want to know your hormone profile, the biochemistry, they'll take it for you.
Great, great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you all the IT guys working behind the scene to make sure that this is a success. Thank you. We'll come again next time and we'll let you know. Thank you and have a wonderful night. And then you can go back to our Facebook channel, go and follow us on our YouTube channel, Heal Yourself Africa, and also follow us on our Facebook and Instagram, and also follow Tunde too also. Then if you have any question, this is recorded also. You can go back there again, listen and listen until you internalize it. On that note, we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Tunde, and thank you the team that made this happen.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.
The left and right branch off from the aorta. These in turn branch off into smaller arteries which supply oxygen-rich blood around the entire heart muscle. The right coronary artery supplies mainly the right side of the heart, and the left coronary artery supplies the left side of the heart. Coronary arteries, like other arteries in our body, are like hollow tubes. They have a strong outer wall and a more delicate inner lining. When we are very young, our coronary arteries generally have healthy, smooth walls and are wide open tubes. Throughout our lifetime, we smoke, mechanical injury from high pressure blood flow, high cholesterol or high blood sugar